My best friend, Jessica, and I were given a choice between two systems. One was a spend and earn system, the other, a frugal living system. In my last life, Jessica chose to spend, and I chose to save. She spiraled into an endless cycle of consumption and died from exhaustion. I, on the other hand, quietly built an empire of wealth. At my wedding, her grieving parents burst in, screaming at me in front of everyone. "You monster! You killed our daughter." And then I woke up, back on the day of the choice. Jessica spoke first, her tone laced with a bitter venom I recognized all too well. "I choose the frugal living system." A familiar mechanical voice echoed in my mind. Host Jessica has selected the frugal living system. Binding in progress. Remaining system. Spend and earn. Bind to host Carol. I looked at her. Her face was gaunt, her skin pale, and her eyes, those hollow, burning eyes, gleamed with twisted satisfaction. She believed she had just handed me her curse. She thought she had stolen a life I once lived. "Bind it," I said calmly. Her smirk faltered. She was waiting for me to panic, to beg, but I didn't. I met her gaze with quiet composure. Spend and earn system successfully bound. Issuing novice mission. Spend $10,000 within 24 hours. Success. Receive $10,000 rebate. Failure. Instant death. Almost immediately, Jessica winced. Her own system must have activated. I knew what came next. Novice mission. Earn $1 through acts of saving within 24 hours. Success. Receive $2 reward. Failure. System will confiscate host's most cherished possession. That same mission had once pushed me to the edge of insanity. But this time, Jessica smiled with feral delight. She stood, walked to the window, and flicked off the lights.
Ding.
Saved 2 cents on electricity. Then she unplugged the water dispenser.
Ding.
Saved 5 cents on electricity. She turned back to me, triumphant. "Good luck, Carol." I ignored her. Pulling out my phone, I opened a food delivery app and searched for the city's most expensive sushi restaurant. I ordered everything: sashimi, sea urchin, wagyu beef, until the total hit $9,888. Then I added a $112 tip. Total, $10,000 exactly. Jessica's sneer deepened. "So, desperate. Don't you get it? You'll have to double your spending every day. 10,000 today, 20 tomorrow, 40 the next. Let's see how long you survive." I didn't respond. I simply waited for my order. 30 minutes later, a delivery driver appeared at my door, out of breath and carrying several large insulated containers. I accepted them and met his weary eyes. "Thank you for your hard work," I said softly. "These are for you." He blinked, confused. "Ma'am, what?" "It's all yours," I repeated. "A small thank you to everyone working late tonight." I closed the door before he could speak again. From the hallway came his stunned, tearful thanks. Behind me, Jessica screamed in disbelief. "You're insane. You just gave away $10,000 worth of food." I turned and smiled at her. She didn't understand. This system was never meant to destroy those who spend. It was meant to destroy those who can't let go. I had no intention of explaining anything to her.
Ding.
Novice mission complete. Reward, $10,000 deposited. New mission, spend $20,000 within 24 hours. Success, receive a $20,000 rebate. Failure, instant death. I opened my interface. My balance now read a clean, bright $10,000. A chime echoed from Jessica's side.
Ding.
Novice mission complete. Reward, $2 deposited. I caught the twitch in her jaw. $2. After all her fussing, unplugging appliances, rationing water, sitting in the dark, her grand reward was $2 measly. I had made 10,000 with a few taps on my phone. Her jealousy hit me like a wave, thick and suffocating. "Don't get smug, Carol," she spat. "This is just the start. The more you spend, the faster you'll die." I shrugged, scrolling through my phone. "We'll see." This time, I didn't order food. Instead, I opened a charity app and searched for a cause worth the money. I found a small, no-kill animal shelter on the brink of shutting down. Their page listed hundreds of abandoned cats and dogs, along with unpaid rent, food costs, and mounting vet bills, just over $20,000 in total. I contacted the director to verify everything, then transferred the full amount. The woman on the other end burst into tears of relief. She kept asking for my name, saying she wanted to hang a plaque in my honor. "There's no need," I told her gently. Just make sure they all get a good meal tonight. When I hung up, Jessica was staring at me like I'd lost my mind. You donated it? Again. I did. What are you playing at? She shouted, her voice cracking. Then her eyes widened with dawning horror. You know something, don't you? You were reborn too. I met her gaze, without answering. Her face went paper white. Fear rooted her in place. If I'd also returned from death, then her little act of revenge, stealing my so-called golden system, was nothing but a cruel joke. She hadn't outsmarted me. She'd doomed herself. In my last life, I'd clawed my way up using the Frugal Living system. I'd saved until my fingers bled, watched every cent multiply until I was a millionaire. Jessica thought it was an easy path, but she'd forgotten the truth behind it. She didn't remember me walking 3 miles in the summer heat to save $2 on bus fare, or living for months on instant noodles just to cut food costs, or the endless nights of self-denial, lowering my quality of life piece by piece until there was almost nothing left of me, except my balance sheet. That system didn't reward discipline. It rewarded suffering. And Jessica, a pampered heiress who'd never gone a day without comfort, could she survive that? Jessica stumbled out, pale and trembling, unable to process what she'd just learned. She needed time to face the terrifying truth. I was reborn too. As for me, I began mapping out my spending strategy. The spend and earn system hadn't killed her because of the missions themselves, but because of how she'd approached them. In her last life, she'd wasted her fortune on handbags, cars, and jewelry, things that fed her vanity, but had no real value. There's a limit to how much one person can consume. When the daily requirement grows from thousands to millions, you can't possibly eat or wear that much in a day. Jessica had literally worked herself to death trying. But spending doesn't have to mean wasting. It can mean investment, contribution, building something bigger. After the $20,000 mission, the system credited me with another $20,000 and my next challenge appeared. Spend $40,000 within 24 hours. I opened my laptop and typed a name into the search bar, James Hayes. In my past life, I met him years later at a tech summit after I'd already made my fortune. He became my husband, a man who valued kindness over wealth. But at this point in time, he was still a struggling student, a young genius running out of hope. It didn't take long to find him. A computer science prodigy from Kingston University, leading a small team developing a new social media platform. Their idea had potential, but their funds were running dry. A photo popped up on my screen. He looked younger, his face still soft with youth, his eyes bright with stubborn ambition. My heart tightened. That was him. Without hesitation, I found his contact information and began typing a message. Mr. Hayes, my name is Carol, I typed. I'm an angel investor interested in your project. Are you available to talk? The message disappeared into the void. I wasn't worried. James had always been quick to respond when an opportunity appeared. For now, I had a simpler way to handle my next mission. The $40,000 target. I called a cab and headed straight to the city's largest bullion exchange. In her last life, Jessica had tried to spend her way out of the system's curse by buying gold too, but she'd gone to luxury boutiques, overpaying for gaudy jewelry with massive markups. I didn't make that mistake. I walked straight to the industrial counter, where traders dealt only in raw metal. Good afternoon, I said calmly. What's the spot price for gold today? 2,000 an ounce, ma'am, the clerk replied. Perfect. I'll take 20 ounces. Exactly $40,000. I swiped my card, signed the paperwork, and felt the solid weight of the gold bars in my hands. Cold, heavy, and reassuring, like holding certainty itself.
Ding.
Mission complete. Reward, $40,000 deposited. New mission, spend $80,000 within 24 hours. Just as I slipped the gold into my purse, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. A smooth, clear voice came through the line, cautious but confident. Hello, is this Miss Carol? This is James Hayes. We met at a small coffee shop near Kingston University. He was already there when I arrived, sitting by the window, the sunlight tracing soft gold across his worn white shirt. A half-finished Americano sat before him, probably the cheapest item on the menu. He looked so much younger than the man I remembered, his edges not yet hardened by time or success. When he saw me, he stood up quickly, almost awkwardly. Miss Carol, hello. Just Carol, I said, smiling as I took the seat across from him. He hesitated for a moment, as if trying to reconcile the young woman before him with the word investor. Right, Carol. You said you're interested in my project. I nodded. I am. I read your proposal. The concept of interest-based social circles. It's fresh, efficient, and scalable. You're building something with real potential. A spark flickered in his eyes, but it dimmed almost as quickly. Thank you, he murmured. But we're out of money. How much do you need? He hesitated, then slowly lifted 5 fingers. 500,000. That's the bare minimum to keep development going. 500,000. To me, that was only a matter of time. But I couldn't simply hand it over, not yet. I'm willing to invest, I said. His eyes widened, surprise giving way to cautious excitement. Really? On one condition, I added. His expression shifted immediately. What condition? I want exclusive rights to all research, development, and patents your team produces for the next year, I said evenly. It was a ruthless offer, and we both knew it. I was essentially buying a year of his brilliance for a fraction of what it might one day be worth. James went quiet. His gaze dropped his cup as he traced the rim with his fingers. I was gambling on 2 things, his faith in himself and his desperation. Finally, he lifted his head. His eyes were sharp, cutting straight through my composure. Why? He asked softly. Why what? Why are you doing this? You don't seem like the type to throw money around for fun. I smiled faintly. Because I need to spend it. He blinked. That's not funny. But I wasn't joking. The system's demands would only grow, hundreds of thousands, then millions. Shopping and charity alone wouldn't sustain me forever. Investing, however, was the perfect loophole. Every dollar I spent here built the future I was trying to secure. He didn't understand that yet. To him, I must have sounded unhinged. Before I could elaborate, the coffee shop door swung open. A young woman swept in, all designer labels and polished arrogance. Her heels clicked sharply against the tile as she strode straight toward us. James, she snapped, her voice loud enough to draw attention. Still chasing investors? How many times do you have to hear it? No one's going to waste their money on your dead-end project. Her gaze flicked to me, sizing me up before curling her lip in disdain. Oh, so you've found yourself a young, pretty one this time, she said, voice dripping with mockery. Sweetheart, take my advice and stay away from this broke loser. All he can give you are empty promises. It was Brittany, James's ex. The same woman who, in our past life, had mocked him mercilessly, only to end up choking on regret. James's face turned scarlet. He clenched his fists and snapped, Brittany, this has nothing to do with you. How does it not? She shot back. I'm just saving this poor girl from getting conned by you. She pulled a black card from her purse and slapped it on the table. See this, darling? This is what a real man gives a woman. Not a cheap cup of coffee and a pile of dreams. I glanced at the card but didn't bother replying. Taking my silence as awe, Brittany's smugness swelled. I actually came to tell you, James, that I'm getting engaged to Preston Vance next week. You've heard of the Vances, right? Their family's worth hundreds of millions. You'll never be in my league. The color drained from James's face. I sighed, opened my wallet, and drew out a thick stack of cards. One by one, I fanned them across the table. Black, platinum, limitless. The glossy surfaces caught the cafe lights like trophies in a quiet war. I tilted my head, smiled sweetly, and asked, which of these did you say a man should give a woman? Would these be enough? Brittany froze. Her face shifted from red to white, then back again, the embarrassment practically glowing off her skin. James sat speechless, eyes fixed on me, a storm of confusion and admiration flickering there. Ignoring Brittany completely, I gathered my cards and turned to him. I accept your terms, he said at last, his voice hoarse but steady. 500,000 for 1 year of first rights. You handle the paperwork. Deal, I replied simply. With that, I rose and started toward the exit. As I passed Brittany, I leaned close enough for her to hear me clearly. Not everything can be measured by money, I said quietly. Some things, like a man's potential or his heart, are worth more. I walked out without looking back. Outside, my system reminder pinged in my head. I still had $80,000 left to spend. At the city's most exclusive mall, I ignored the women's boutiques and headed straight for high-end menswear. I bought James a full wardrobe, tailored suits, crisp shirts, silk ties, cufflinks, all in his exact sizes from memory. The total came to just over $70,000. With the rest, I bought each of my parents a new massage chair, the best model available. As the final payment processed, the system chimed. Ding. Spending mission complete. Reward, $80,000 credited. New mission, spend $160,000 within 24 hours. When I returned home with bags in hand, Jessica was sitting in the living room, hunched over a bowl of watery noodles. No vegetables, no color, just plain broth and misery. She looked frail, her cheekbones jutting out sharply, but when she saw me, jealousy sparked in her hollow eyes before twisting into glee. Another shopping spree? She sneered. I've got to admire your energy, Carol. Even staring death in the face, you still find time to play sugar mama to your new boy toy. So, she'd already heard about James. I set my bags down without responding. You know, she continued bitterly, I haven't stepped outside in 2 days. Costs too much. I eat one bowl of noodles a day, saves $50 on food, $10 on transport. The system rewards me with $120. See? I'm making $120 a day. That's $3,600 a month, over 40 grand a year. It won't be long before I'm richer than you, Carol. I stared at her, unable to decide whether to laugh or pity her. She'd turned herself into a prisoner for a pitiful $120 a day, and she was proud of it. Want to know my mission for today? I asked lightly. She blinked. I held out my phone. The numbers on the screen reflected in her widening eyes. New mission, spend $160,000 within 24 hours. Jessica's pupils shrank to pinpoints. 160,000. An amount she'd never touch, not even if she starved herself for years. And all I had to do was spend it in 24 hours. The realization hit Jessica like a physical blow. She lurched to her feet, the bowl of noodles crashing to the floor. Broth and limp pasta splattered across the tiles. Impossible, she shrieked, voice breaking. That's impossible. The system's broken, it has to be. I watched her unravel with detached calm. It's not broken, Jessica, I said quietly. You are. From the very beginning, you made the wrong choice. Jessica shattered. She couldn't accept that she'd reached a dead end. What she thought was the shortcut to wealth had turned into another trap, even more hopeless than the life she'd left behind. Soon, my phone was buzzing nonstop with her messages. Carol, can we switch back? Please, I'll give you the frugal living system. I was wrong. The spend and earn one is better. I'll buy whatever you want, just help me. Carol, answer me. Are you really going to watch me die? How can you be so heartless? I didn't reply. Not once. Eventually, I blocked her everywhere. The $160,000 mission was simple enough. I used it to rent an office near James's university, a temporary studio for his team, and paid the lease a year in advance. When I handed him the keys and contract, James just stared at me in silence. Why? He asked finally. The same question as before. I told you, I replied, handing him the shopping bags filled with new clothes. I need ways to spend money. Consider this a celebration of our partnership. He looked down at the designer logos, brow furrowing slightly. Carol, he said carefully, I'd like to keep our partnership professional. This is professional, I countered with a small smile. I invest in you, and you create value for me. Think of it as an advance on employee benefits. I pushed the bags into his arms before he could protest. A polished image will open doors for your project. You'll see. You're worth it. Reluctantly, he accepted them. His expression remained cautious, as if unsure what to make of me. In his mind, I was probably just another spoiled rich girl playing at generosity. That was fine. Time would prove him wrong. The days that followed fell into rhythm. I completed mission after mission. For $320,000, I bought top-tier servers and development hardware for the team. At $640,000, I recruited the best graduates from the computer science department, signing them on as the company's first employees and prepaying their salaries for 6 months. At $1,280,000, I acquired a small data analytics firm and merged its resources into James's project. Each mission doubled the target, and with every completion, our company took on more shape and power. James and his team no longer worried about funding. They could finally focus solely on creation. Their first prototype came together faster than anyone expected. James named it Echo. He said it was for the idea that every small voice deserved to be heard, that even the quietest sound could find its resonance. On the day of the internal beta test, he sent me the first invitation code. I opened the app, tracing the sleek, futuristic interface, and felt a genuine swell of pride for him. Meanwhile, Jessica had vanished from my world entirely. I only heard whispers from the building's security guard. He mentioned that the girl in that apartment hadn't stepped outside in weeks. That delivery men brought her the cheapest water jugs and instant noodles every day. That a strange, sour odor had begun leaking from under her door. I didn't need to see it to understand. The system was eating her alive. She thought she was saving money, but in truth, she was saving herself to death, hoarding scraps and misery until there was nothing left to take. Echo's beta test was an instant success. James became a campus legend overnight. Investment offers flooded in, one even from Brittany's fiancé, Preston Vance, heir to the Vance Corporation. Preston himself came to tour our office, insisting on meeting the mysterious investor behind the project. He was everything I expected, polished, smug, with a practiced smile that never reached his eyes. Brittany clung to his arm like a prize, but her gaze toward me was full of venom. "Miss Carroll," Preston said, extending his hand. "A pleasure to meet you." I didn't take it. Instead, I nodded to James to begin his presentation. As James spoke, Preston's attention kept drifting back to me. Halfway through, he cut him off with a lazy grin. "A project like this," he said, "is wasted on a single backer. The Vance Corporation is prepared to offer $50 million for a 50% stake. What do you say, Miss Carroll?" $50 million. The audacity. Echo was already worth 10 times that. He was trying to rob me blind. Before I could respond, James's face went cold. "I'm sorry, Mr. Vance. Carroll is our sole investor. We have no intention of selling any shares." Now, James, let's not be hasty," Preston said, waving dismissively. Then he turned his oily smile on me. "Miss Carroll, in business, there are no permanent friends, only permanent interests. You invested in him to make money, right? Here's $50 million, cash in hand. Why not take the easy win?" Brittany leaned forward, eyes gleaming. "Exactly, Carroll. Know when to quit. $50 million is more than you could ever spend in a lifetime. What's a girl like you going to do with all that anyway?" I watched them perform their little theater and smiled faintly. "And what if I say no?" Preston's grin vanished. "Think carefully, Miss Carroll. Is one small project worth making the Vance family your enemy? A threat?" I lifted my teacup, blowing gently across the surface. "Mr. Vance, do you have any idea how much money I've already poured into this project?" He blinked, momentarily thrown. "All in, I've invested about $2.5 million, I said plainly, the exact sum of my completed missions. Preston and Brittany exchanged a look of pure contempt. To them, that was petty cash. I set my cup down with a soft click. So, why would I ever sell my company for a mere $50 million? A mere $50 million? Brittany squeaked. Exactly, I nodded. After all, my task for the next 24 hours is to spend that much. On my system interface, the new mission glowed brightly. New mission issued. Spend $51,200,000 within 24 hours. The conference room went silent. Preston and Brittany looked like they'd swallowed flies. And James, for the first time, the caution and distance in his eyes melted into something new, shock and a sharp, searching curiosity. Preston left soon after, muttering threats about revenge. I didn't flinch. What could a pampered heir, riding on his family's fortune, possibly do to me? After the door closed, James finally stopped me. "What you said in there, was it true?" "What part?" I asked. "The $50 million task." I said nothing. Let him wonder. "Who are you, really?" he pressed. "A businesswoman," I said simply. "A businesswoman who really needs to spend money." He went silent, the walls he had built around himself starting to crack. He was beginning to see that I wasn't the shallow, reckless heiress he had imagined. Every move I made, every dollar spent, followed a logic he couldn't yet grasp, and that mystery drew him in. The $50 million mission was a challenge unlike any other. I couldn't simply buy equipment or patents. The company was running efficiently, and any more would be wasteful. I needed a new outlet. Then I thought of someone. Jessica's father. He owned a struggling real estate company, barely afloat on bank loans. In my last life, he had accused me of murdering his daughter at my wedding. This time, I decided to help him. Through an anonymous third party, I offered to buy a worthless plot of undeveloped land on the outskirts of the city for $50 million, more than double its market value. He agreed almost instantly, thinking he had struck gold. We met at a hotel to sign the contract. He was boasting to his lawyer, flushed with triumph, when he froze at the sight of me. "Carroll, what are you doing here?" "Mr. Miller, it's been a while," I said pleasantly, extending my hand. His smile vanished, replaced by suspicion. It was you? You're buying my land? Where did you even get that kind of money? That's not your concern, I said smoothly. All you need to know is that this 50 million will solve your financial crisis. His eyes narrowed, suspicion blazing. What are you planning? Are you trying to hurt Jessica? I almost laughed. Even now, he thought this was about his daughter. You're reading too much into this, I said, my smile fading. Jessica made her own choices. They have nothing to do with me. I'm here to discuss business. Business. He barked a laugh. You call this business? You're just throwing money at me. Think of it however you want, I replied coolly. Either way, I have to spend it before the day ends. I slid the folder toward him. Sign this. Once you do, 50 million will be transferred to your account. If not, I'll take my offer elsewhere. Believe me, plenty of people would jump at the chance. He stared at me, torn between suspicion and greed. But greed always wins with men like him. He snatched the pen and scribbled his name at the bottom of the page. You'll regret this, he hissed. I smiled faintly. Regret? Not me. He didn't know that in 3 months, the government would announce its new urban redevelopment plan. The worthless piece of land he'd just sold me would become the centerpiece of the city's financial district. Its value would skyrocket tenfold. The $50 million mission was complete. Another 50 million appeared in my system balance, and the next goal appeared right after. 100 million. For the first time, I felt a flicker of pressure. Meanwhile, James's app, Echo, finally launched. Thanks to its sleek design and the viral buzz from the beta release, it became an overnight sensation. 100,000 downloads on the first day. 500,000 by day 3. 3 million within a week. James and his team were hailed as the next tech prodigies. He was suddenly everywhere, on magazine covers, in interviews, young, brilliant, and charismatic. The media called him the golden boy of innovation, and girls everywhere were swooning over him. Brittany, of course, was drowning in regret. She tried calling him again and again, crying, apologizing, begging for another chance. James never picked up. One afternoon, she cornered me in the underground parking lot. Her face was pale and desperate as she blocked my car. Carol, please, she pleaded, tears streaking down her face. Give James back to me. I rolled the window down. He was never mine to give. No. If it weren't for you, he would have forgiven me, she screamed, slamming her fists against my car. You bought him with your money. He doesn't love you. Whether he loves me or not is between us, I said evenly. But one thing's certain, he doesn't love you. Her face crumpled, and she stumbled back as if I'd struck her. I rolled up the window and drove away, without looking back. That evening, my phone rang. It was Jessica's mother. Her voice sounded brittle, worn down. Carol, can you come see Jessica? She asked weakly. I hesitated. What happened? She's not going to make it, her mother said, her voice breaking. She locked herself in her room for weeks. Wouldn't eat, wouldn't sleep. We had to break the door down. She's skin and bones, Carol. Just please come. You were her closest friend. Maybe you can reach her. I closed my eyes. In my past life, they had beaten me and called me a murderer. In this one, they were begging me to save their daughter. The irony was suffocating. I'll come, I said quietly. At the hospital, I found Jessica in a private VIP room. She was unrecognizable, thin, pale, eyes sunken, tubes everywhere. The lively, confident girl I'd once known had vanished. When she saw me, something faint flickered in her dull eyes. Her lips trembled as she forced out a rasped word. Money way. Even at the end, it was still about money. The numbers that had once thrilled her now meaningless. I stepped closer and leaned over her bed. Look at yourself, Jessica, I whispered. Was it worth it? Tears rolled down her cheeks. Her hand reached for mine, trembling, fragile. Help me, she whispered. How? I asked softly. By spending it all? She nodded, desperate. For the first time, she understood. Money meant nothing if it couldn't buy back a single heartbeat. It's too late, I said quietly. Taking out my phone, I opened my system interface. Account balance, $51,200,000. Current mission, spend $102,400,000 within 24 hours. I held the glowing screen in front of Jessica's face. See this? This is my task for today. Meanwhile, you couldn't even bring yourself to buy a bottle of water. Her dull eyes trembled. You thought you were stealing my destiny, I went on softly, but all you did was dig a prettier grave for yourself. Her gaze locked on the enormous numbers displayed on my phone. Slowly, the faint light in her eyes flickered out, leaving behind nothing but an empty gray void. Her fingers slipped from mine. The weak, irregular beeping of the heart monitor flattened into a single, endless tone. From the hall came the anguished cries of her parents. I straightened, emotionless, watching the still figure on the bed. It was over. Both of Jessica's lives had been devoured by the same hunger. Jessica's death hardly rippled the surface of my world. I didn't attend her funeral. I was too busy facing my next mission, $100 million to spend. This time, I founded a charity in Echo's name. Its goal was simple: to support talented young people shackled by poverty, people who reminded me of the James I had first met. At the foundation's launch event, I held a small press conference. James stood beside me, the cameras flashing around us. When the noise died down, he reached out and took my hand in his. Warm, steady, sure. "Carol," he whispered, "thank you." I knew he wasn't only thanking me for the foundation. He meant everything: my support, my faith, my silent partnership. "Don't thank me," I said, smiling. "We're partners." "More than partners," he murmured, his gaze steady. "Carol, may I pursue you?" My heart gave a startled flutter. This was sooner than I'd expected. Instead of answering, I asked, "Aren't you curious where all this money comes from?" He shook his head. "No." "Why not?" "Because I trust you," he said simply. "And I know you're a good person. That's all I need." My throat tightened. Just like before, in another lifetime, his trust was unconditional. No matter what I did, he had always stood behind me. "Okay," I whispered. A single word, yet it felt like closing a circle that had taken 2 lives to complete. After that day, everything changed. James began courting me in his sweet, slightly awkward way. He drove me to work, brought home-cooked lunches, took me to weekend movies. We looked like any other couple in love. Except our dates were a bit more extravagant. My spending missions kept escalating: 200 million, 400 million, 800 million. The numbers became staggering. I poured the money into massive investments: renewable energy, biotech, artificial intelligence, anything that represented the future. With the system's rebates, I built a sprawling financial empire. At its center stood Echo, the crown jewel. It became a global social media giant worth billions. James, once a penniless student, was now the youngest self-made billionaire on the Forbes list. When he proposed, he rented out the entire Ferris wheel on the riverfront. As the cabin reached its peak, the glittering city stretched below us like a sea of stars. He dropped to one knee, holding out a small velvet box. The ring inside wasn't some enormous diamond. It was a sleek platinum band shaped from intertwined lines of code, designed by his own hand. "Carol," he said, looking up at me, his eyes glowing with the city's light, "I know there's nothing you can't buy. So the only thing I can offer you is this." He took a breath. "A heart that will beat only for you, for as long as I live." My vision blurred with tears. I smiled and extended my hand. "I will." We were married on a secluded island, surrounded by only a handful of close friends and family. Jessica's parents attended. Time had turned their hair gray and their faces hollow. They approached me and bowed deeply. "Carol," her father said hoarsely, "we're sorry. We were wrong about you." Her mother nodded, her eyes red. Jessica was trapped by her own obsession. "We see that now." It was our greed that ruined her. I looked at them for a long moment. "It's all behind us," I said softly. And it was. The pain of the past, the tangled debts of 2 lifetimes, they had finally been washed away. After the ceremony, James and I walked along the beach. The setting sun stretched our shadows across the sand. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. I was wondering, what if there had been no system? I said. He stopped, facing me. "There are no what-ifs," he replied gently. "Even if you had no system, no fortune, even if we were strangers passing by on a crowded street, I'd still fall for you at first sight." I stared at him, speechless, as he pulled me into his arms. "Because you're you," he whispered. "The one and only Carol." Leaning against his chest, listening to his heartbeat, I finally understood. Spend and earn. Frugal living. The system had only ever given us a choice. What truly decided everything was the heart behind it. Those consumed by greed destroy themselves. But those who act with love and light will always find their way, no matter which path they take. Then, for the final time, the familiar chime echoed in my mind. Ultimate mission: make one purchase for the one you love. Mission reward. System bond release. Return to a free life. I smiled. So this was the true ending. Rising on my toes, I kissed him softly. I love you. It was the most valuable purchase I would ever make, for him and for myself.
Ding.
Ultimate mission complete. Spend and earn system disengaged. Congratulations, host. You are free.